Welcome to the special edition of Outlaw Theology with the Whiskey Preacher. I'm your host, Phil Shepard, better known as the Whiskey Preacher. Over the next few minutes, I'm going to try and attempt with quotation marks, to answer in the best of my ability the question, what does it mean to love our neighbor? Who is our neighbor? And how should we try to love them? This comes from what is often referred to as the greatest commandment. Jesus actually said this, at least as it is recorded in Scripture, I should say. Hear, O Israel, I am the Lord your God is one. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, strength, soul, and spirit, and love your neighbor as yourself. He goes on to say in one of the Gospels that all the law of the prophets, so everything that they truly believed in at that time, was hung on this commandment. I think Jesus was really intentional about creating this almost, if you will, as a chain reaction. If we work our way backwards and go forward, so to be able to love God, you need to love your neighbor as yourself. I think before we can even remotely try to figure out what it means to love our neighbor, we have to first embrace the idea and the notion that we are to love ourselves. And I don't mean that in an egomaniac, narcissistic way, but in a healthy, we are made not only as a good creation, but a really good creation way. That was found in the Genesis narrative where, in my humble opinion, which I respect by the way, God never recants the fact that we are called a really good creation. God truly loves us and loves the creation that she created. I think one of the major ways we can love God is by learning to love ourselves, because if we don't know how and to really take in the fact that we are loved and that we should love ourselves, we really can't learn to love our neighbor. How can we love someone else, truly love someone else, if we don't even know what love is ourselves? So you could say it is leading by example. If we truly are to love our neighbor, we have to buy into the fact, if you will, that we are loved ourselves, and that we are to healthily love ourselves. And once we learn to love ourselves, and that could be in various different ways, we then can learn to love our neighbor, which will also be expressed in various different ways. Hospitality, taking care of the orphans and poor, even loving our enemies, which I am horrible at. That'll probably be something that I struggle with for the rest of my life, is learning to love my enemy. I'm an Enneagram 8, if that makes any sense to any of you. And so that means I hold a grudge. And I realized that that's probably not the healthiest thing to do. However, this is just me being honest. And I don't know if this muddies the water for you at all, if this clicks something in for you, but for me to be able to answer the question truthfully and honestly, how do we love our neighbor? That is rooted in how we love ourselves. Thanks for tuning in to the special edition of Outlaw Theology with the Whiskey Preacher. I would love to hear your response. Please feel free to go to Twitter at Phil Shepard or Facebook, Whiskey Preacher, and I want to hear your thoughts on my response, and I want to hear your response to this question: how do you love your neighbor?